all, let me tell you what an absolute pleasure it is to be able to kick off this semester's lecture series. I hope that the rest of them get this kind of impressive turnout, especially when we're going to talk about an event that happened 2,500 years ago. Already, Mr. Pinatopoulos was kind enough to give you a preliminary idea of about what this talk tonight will be. So therefore, we are going to go straight into the actual issue and talk about the Battle of Marathon. Now, just to keep things a little bit simple, and just to tell you a little brief background, historical and otherwise, of what Marathon as a battle, as an event, tends to constitute. Well, basically, guys, we're talking about one of the most decisive battles within human history. I'm not usually for any sort of generalizations, but whenever the idea or whenever the notion of the Battle of Marathon comes into being, you always get the impression that we're talking about something big, with a humongous impact, with a definite effect as far as future generations are concerned. The reference, in this case, that might signify the importance of this battle and of this historical event, run, I can assure you, within the tens, if not the hundreds. John Stuart Mill, for instance, described it specifically that as an event, the Battle of Marathon is more important in British history even than the Battle of Hastings. Alan Lloyd talked about a decisive moment, the very beginning of Western democracy as we know it. Later on, you would have people that simply put, upon the mention of the term of marathon, they would argue that this is one of the true crucial points, a pivotal point, all throughout the development, not only of Greek history, not only of Greek civilization as we know it, but to a certain extent, Western civilization in itself. And it's way more than that, because the Battle of Marathon, guys, is essentially an archetypal example of David v. Goliath. It's a typical kind of case where you would have pitted against each other a major empire like the Achaemenid Empire of the 5th century. This is the actual extent, the one that you see within the color green, that would give you an idea of the territorial confines of the Persian Empire. 35, maybe even more million people lived and died under the rule of the Shahs. Against them, against this mighty empire, the very name of which was enough to bring awe and terror to anyone who was about to encounter them, you would find Athens. Yep, it's that tiny little speck at the very border, or the very corner of the map itself. The interesting thing about Marathon, and in fact what remains a little bit mind-blowing, is that against all odds, against all rationale, against all reason, against all military manuals, textbooks, all that collectively ancient warfare has taught us, the Athenians in fact managed to win. I know I broke the surprise, but yes, the Athenians won, so I'm not going to really get into that. Okay, the interesting thing about this battle, again in the form of introduction, is that despite its decisiveness, despite its importance and its significance, nevertheless, the details of what really happened on that day when the Athenians met the Persians at the battle site of Marathon remain elusive. Much blame to this will obviously have to go to our ancient sources, which in this case, let's be entirely honest, it is just one. I'm talking, of course, of Herodotus, of DIKEMES, who spent an entire, indeed, compendium in his books describing the details of the Persian Wars. However, when it comes to Marathon, it seems that his account is more problematic than being able to give us answers with regard to specific questions. We wish, and this time I'm talking as a military historian, we wish we had a Thucydides. We wish we had a Polybius. We wish, if we had, indeed, a Velius Paterculus. We wish, if you ask me, we had an Ammianus Magellanus. These would have been the typical military historians that at least would be able to shed light on what happened that day at Marathon. But then again, Herodotus, pretty much, you can think of Herodotus as being kind of like a miniskirt or bell bottoms. This is the kind of guy that drops in and out of fashion as the wind blows.